The Warden of the Dark finally reveals itself, and Giliong freezes in fear, but Dokja tells him to stay back, realizing all the insects connected to him have already died and that the backlash must have caused serious mental damage. Suddenly, Sangha speaks up, repeating a single word the monster said, "Mother," and Dokja is stunned when she explains she can understand it thanks to her interpretation skill, only to learn the creature isn't speaking metaphorically at all. Before anyone can react, the Warden thrusts a stem into Myongo Han's mouth, forcing its offspring into his body, and Dokja instantly understands the horrifying meaning. He cuts the stem just in time, making the monster shriek, but when it retaliates, even Dokja's barrier is shattered with ease, leaving him with the grim realization that this enemy was never meant to be killed head-on. Buying time, Dokja calls a Dakibi and pressures it under the gaze of furious constellations, forcing it to deliver an item from the auction house. Broken Faith, a damaged weapon exempt from commission under his contract. Though the Dakibi mocks him for wielding a broken blade, Dokja activates the skill he bought after killing the serpent, White Star Weapon Aura, causing the weapon to react and transform as Blade of Faith ignites with power. When the Warden attacks again, Dokja dodges and strikes, severing one of its stems, knowing this blade is especially effective against demonic species. He lacks sword skills, his mana drains fast, and raw power alone won't make him a warrior. But Dokja isn't a swordsman. He's a reader, and for the first time, that's enough to give him a chance. Dokja activates Bookmark and rushes the Warden of the Dark, reminding himself that a reader must fight like a reader, not a warrior. With only 1 minute of activation time and partial skill access, he borrows weapon proficiency just long enough to reach the monster and begins slicing through its stems, timing his attacks by reading its repeated patterns and striking in the brief pauses between its assaults. As the Warden screams in demonic language, Sangha translates its shock, asking how Dokja knew where it would strike, and Dokja calmly answers that he's simply read a lot because the road ahead is still long. Against all expectations, the Warden falls, stunning the watching constellations as disbelief ripples through the star stream, with the prisoner of the golden headband erupting in excitement and showering Dokja with coins. As Bookmark deactivates and Broken Faith finally shatters from exhaustion, Dokja explains that it wasn't a true ether blade, only a temporary construct fueled by White Star Weapon Aura, earning grudging admiration even from the Dakibi. Though offered massive rewards to finish the Warden himself, Dokja refuses, knowing that killing a demonic species would draw the hatred of its demon king, and instead lets Myongo Han deliver the final blow, unknowingly inheriting a curse far worse than coins. While the constellations marvel at Dokja's cruelty disguised as mercy, he calmly opens the treasure chests, cooks monster meat over a rare mana brazier, and shares the meal, reminding himself that reading about survival and tasting it are two very different things. When a strange black item box appears, Dokja quietly assembles a gamble no one else understands, feeding it Broken Faith and the Warden's core to trigger a hidden mechanic, producing Unbreakable Faith, a legendary constellation artifact once wielded by an ancient hero. As the group prepares to move on, Dokja senses something is wrong. Every insect nearby has vanished. Giliong begins to bleed from the nose, and a massive surge of unfamiliar energy erupts nearby, signaling that the true danger has only just begun. The ground suddenly trembles as massive vibrations from above signal the movement of high-tier monsters, and Dokja snaps Giliong out of his trance, realizing in shock that he was channeling a monarch-class insect, something far beyond what he should ever touch. He orders him to cut the connection immediately, forbidding him from using that skill again, knowing they'd be wiped out instantly if they stepped into the black tide now, so they choose to wait. As they regroup, Sangha offers to guide them back using a thread-based skill she tested earlier, but hesitates to reveal her personal attributes, prompting Dokja to warn her never to disclose them, suspecting her constellation is actively training her under strict secrecy. When Dokja tries to read her profile, the system responds with an unfamiliar message. Her information is still being collected, confirming she's anything but ordinary. Soon, the channel reopens and Bai-hyung returns, casually admitting he was reprimanded for shutting down the broadcast too long, boasting that the management's warnings don't scare him, before privately acknowledging Dokja's growing notoriety. Back at the station, desperation erupts as the survival fee countdown begins. 100 coins by midnight or death, and survivors beg, threaten, and humiliate themselves for spare coins. When Cheon In-ho exposes Dokja as the wealthiest person in the station, the crowd turns on him, blaming him for selling food, demanding refunds, and surrounding him in fury. Faced with the choice of losing thousands of coins or becoming the villain, Dokja coldly refuses to play along, questioning why he should save people who won't take responsibility for their own survival. When violence finally breaks out, Dokja moves first, severing an attacker's arm in a single slash and calmly asking the stunned crowd if they truly believe this situation is his fault, as the station falls silent and the constellations watch, waiting for his next move. Dokja checks the attacker's character summary and learns his name is Myongo Han, noting that his stats are far too high for an ordinary thug, then calmly tells the crowd the truth, that none of this is his fault, and that they're lashing out at him because they're scared of the gangsters who hold more coins and higher stats. As panic spreads, Dokja forces them to think, pointing out how dozens of ordinary survivors vanished while not a single member of the Kyeondu gang died to monsters, and how those men always returned stronger, richer, and untouched. When Dokja reminds them that Cheon In-ho once promised coins for killing, the implication hits hard. In-ho knew because he'd already done it, and the crowd finally turns on him as the Dokkibi announces only 7 minutes remain. Dokja tells them that if they have any pride left, they should take back what was stolen with their own hands, and the station erupts as survivors attack the gang in a frenzy of rage and desperation. Young Hee-won steps forward, her suppressed rage finally breaking free as her attribute blossoms into Judge of Evil. And with the constellation's approval, she activates Time of Judgment, slaughtering the gang one by one in brutal silence. Cheon In-ho barely has time to smile before Hee-won strikes him down, ending the Kyeondu gang completely as the star stream explodes with ecstasy. When it's over, Hee-won collapses in thought, bloodied but resolute, and Dokja offers her his hand, telling her this is only the beginning, just as the system announces the survival fee will now be collected nightly and confirms they have officially entered the area of the second main scenario. By morning, most of the survivors have fled Jungo Station, leaving only a handful behind, and though Hee-won offers to bring them along, they choose to go their own way, trusting the few coins they still have. With Judge of Evil now firmly on their side, and Myongo Han gone without a trace, Dokja knows it's time to move on, and before they leave, Hee-won punches him lightly, hands over 500 coins as a share, and tells him she couldn't keep everything for herself. Coin rewards pour in from the star stream, and Dokja invests heavily in stamina, strength, agility, and mana, feeling his body surge with power as he prepares for the next stage, knowing stronger stats means stronger earnings and a bigger audience. The second main scenario activates, ordering them to pass through the tunnel and reach the central shelter zone at Chungmu Station. But the underground is infested with monsters, forcing them to fight non-stop until exhaustion sets in, and they stop briefly at Dongguk University Station to rest. While the others take a break, Dokja slips outside into the poisonous fog, guided by memory, and reaches the statue of the great monk Samyeong, where he first prays, then suddenly shatters the idol with his sword, stunning the watching constellations. Ignoring the outrage, Dokja claims the relics sealed within, powerful items tied to the monk's will, and returns to the group, presenting Hee-won with the robe of the great monk and Sangha with prayer beads infused with mana recovery, framing it as a blessing sent to protect Korea once again. Dokja's words move even the furious constellation behind the statue, turning anger into approval and rewards. As they resume their journey toward Chungmu Station, Dokja warns everyone to stay alert. There's less than half a mile left, and just as the station should come into view, a new sub-scenario arrives, and Dokja orders everyone to stand back. The system announces that the encounter for main scenario 2 has been completed and rewards are being calculated, but the relief vanishes instantly when red fire guns are aimed straight at Gileon. Dokja tells Sangha to take care of Hee-won and steps forward, only to be stopped by a man demanding a toll. 500 coins just to stand on this land, making Dokja realize this entire area is someone's private green zone. G reveals the truth. The chaos here exists because Jung Hyuk-yu allowed it, and the ruler of this place is one of the 10 evils, the armament lord of Chungmu, Pildogong. Dokja confirms it by checking profiles. These armed men are nothing but the landlord coalition, former property owners now serving Pildo. Refusing to pay a middleman, Dokja calls Pildo out directly, drawing his attention and learning just how dangerous he is, a future calamity with overwhelming mana and power. When Pildo blocks them from staying unless they pay an impossible daily fee, Dokja counters with information instead, casually dropping Jung Hyuk-yu's name, igniting Pildo's anger and curiosity. Tension explodes when the guns fire, Hyun-seong barely blocking the blast, as Dokja realizes fighting now would only get someone killed. Just as things spiral out of control, Jung Hyuk-yu himself appears, and Ji immediately points Dokja out as the man claiming to be his companion. Dokja reads Jung Hyuk's mind, greets him like an old friend, and calmly puts him on the spot, knowing Jung Hyuk may slaughter enemies without mercy. But he always keeps his promises. As the constellations hold their breath to see whether Jung Hyuk will honor his word, Dokja casually asks one last thing, testing fate itself, while Jung Hyuk stares back in silence. Jung Hyuk finally speaks, remarking that Dokja is lucky to have such capable companions, though he never once acknowledges him as an equal, answering instead by silently pointing his blade at Pildogong and forcing the armament lord to back down. For now, Dokja realizes Jung Hyuk doesn't care whether he lives or dies, and when he tries to read Jung Hyuk's full profile, he finds only a summary, making him suspect that Jung Hyuk has grown even more dangerous than he was in the novel's third round. Their exchange turns sharp and tense, with Jung Hyuk openly wondering if killing Dokja would be easier, while Dokja casually provokes him, knowing full well how close he is to death. When Hee-won regains consciousness, Jung Hyuk notes that Dokja has gathered new companions and coldly judges them as weak, confirming that he left Pildogong alive for his own future plans, not out of mercy. Dokja presses him, warning that the people of Chungmu will die if nothing is done, but Jung Hyuk dismisses it as none of his concern and leaves, already scheming for the next scenario. As the countdown to the third scenario begins, Dokja realizes he can't let Jung Hyuk dictate everything, nor can he confront Pildogong head-on while his militarized zone is active. He explains to Hee-won that her time of judgment can activate because evil itself is judged by the constellation standards, not human ones, and concludes that the only way to defeat Pildogong is to lure him out of his fortified territory. With 1 hour remaining, Dokja decides to secure a room first and plan properly, just as a Dokkibi appears to announce the start of day 3 and the rules of the next scenario unfold before them. The third scenario begins with a simple rule: secure a green zone and survive 7 nights. But panic spreads as people start killing each other to claim territory before midnight. Dokja calms Senga, saying they don't need to fight like that, only to realize there are no empty rooms left in Chungmu Station, leaving them with a brutal choice. As time ticks down, he pretends to search while secretly confirming something even the Dokkibi and constellations can't see. His phone shows a story only he can read. When his team returns empty-handed, Dokja lays out 2 options. The easy one, killing 5 weak survivors and stealing their room, or a far harder path that risks their lives but spares innocent blood. Though some admit they've killed before, none want to become monsters, and they choose the second option. With 5 minutes left, Dokja gives strict orders. They must split into teams and do exactly as he says, because if they fight the monsters head-on, they'll all die. As the ground begins to shake and the monsters spawn below, Dokja points forward and gives the final command: run straight toward the incoming